Hirohiko Araki is famous for his JoJo Bizarre Adventure manga. His style is recognized worldwide, even displayed in museum exhibitions. But what makes his art so unique? Is it the dramatic paneling, the surreal coloring, the extreme fashion designs, or the gravity-defying postures? Well, as he put it himself, it's mastering the posing of figures. When we break down and analyze Araki's art style, it's clear that it has been a transformative journey. Back in the 1980s, his work was sharp, muscular, and influenced by popular titles like Fist of the North Star. Over time, his characters shifted from hard-edged fighters into elegant figures with fashionable hair, dramatic poses, and almost Renaissance-like aesthetic. Every volume shows an evolution in stylistic design and fashion. What stayed consistent was his refusal to stagnate. His art always evolved, even if it meant leaving behind what once defined him. For so long, I had felt that thick eyebrows were a rule. But they weren't a rule. They weren't anything but a mere assumption. Had I clung to drawing thick eyebrows, my artwork would have appeared dated. If you want to keep developing your art along with the times, you need to make active efforts at destroying such assumptions. But in order to do that, you must first master the fundamentals of drawing. So is there an overarching style? To a certain extent, yes. Let's start with the face. In his modern style, the eyes stand out the most. Wide, looming, with flat upper eyelids and double highlights that give them intensity and liveliness. He even uses a touch of white on the lower eyelid to make them pop, framed by thick, iconic eyebrows and lashes. The noses are bold and angular, paired with thick, full lips that give the faces volume and weight. Jawlines are wide and powerful, with chins that almost feel sculpted. Bodies remain muscular and dramatic, limbs curved and exaggerated to emphasize power and elegance at once. His hair designs are always fashionable, shifting between trends and experiments, sometimes even reminiscent of classic Hollywood. But the posing of his characters is what truly makes him stand out. He drew inspiration from Greek and Roman sculptures, like Apollo and Daphne, or the Olympian Discobolus, to really refine his style. I taught manga myself and began drawing independently. I studied the fundamentals by sketching and imitating my favorite mangaka, Sanpei Shirato and Mitsuteru Yokoyama. Even though I failed many times, I kept practicing. The distinctive feature of my art comes from how I pose my figures, a technique I learned on my travels to Italy. You can't capture a character's entire pose from the face alone, so I draw bust illustrations and use the shoulders to convey each figure's characteristic stance. When we look at the manga panels, Araki's line art uses sharp contrast and heavy shadows to emphasize volume and curvature, adding realism. He often mixes jagged lines with rounded ones, giving his characters both tension and softness at the same time. His angles and perspectives are masterclass, though his paneling can sometimes be a bit overwhelming, at least for my taste. Some pages are busy with so much detail that it's harder to know where to focus. Still, Araki is deliberate with his intent of making the invisible visible. In simple terms, he finds it important to visualize how things affect each other in a believable way, without explanation, transferring tension directly to the reader. This can be friendship, justice, love, or something as blunt as a forceful impact. It's a concept he studied from masters like Akira's creator, Katsuhiro Otomo. Araki's coloring, especially on covers and promotional art, is where he truly breaks free. Bright, sometimes clashing palettes merge surrealism and modern art, aiming to create moods rather than realism. To put it bluntly, he doesn't shy away from any color. Every hue is fair game, even if it sometimes feels overwhelming. Another interesting note is his preference for analog drawing over digital. For him, it feels like performing live art. With limited tools and a lower margin for error, he feels more connected to his characters, more present in the moment of creation. Which brings me to the question, what kind of tools does he use? Actually, Araki's toolkit is fairly traditional but precise. He mainly uses Zebra G-pens with cushioned grips, Pilot ink that dries clean for coloring, and Kaimai ink for deep blacks. For drafts, he relies on blue pencils that vanish in print, along with a collection of brushes, erasers, and reference figures to capture depth and anatomy. So what about his inspiration? He draws from many sources, but Western art and cinema, especially Clint Eastwood, were huge influences. He sees heroes as brave, righteous individuals who aim to rise upward without needing anyone else. Before drawing a new character, I always write a character history. Character history is like a chef's secret seasoning. It's essential for keeping the flavor consistent. For instance, if a character is initially described as unathletic, it would be inconsistent for that character to suddenly become nimble in a fight. It's critical that your readers understand your characters at a single glance, and as you write the character history, you will naturally form an image of how that character should be drawn. When we look at his character designs overall, even without knowing their history, it's impossible to ignore the fashion inspiration. Araki builds outfits that are dramatic, stylish, and expressive, even if they'd never be practical in real life. He isn't trying to make functional clothes. He's trying to make characters unforgettable. By changing outfits throughout the manga, often influenced by fashion magazines and models, he pushes a flamboyant aesthetic across all kinds of settings. This blends directly into his famous poses, JoJo Dachi. They're overemphasized, twisted, sometimes even anatomically impossible, but they fit perfectly into his bizarre world. Araki himself has explained that his entire approach is about walking a fine line. Push too far into realism and the art becomes mundane. Push too far into the surreal and readers disconnect from the characters. His goal is to keep one foot in reality while still pushing expression to its limit. During my early career, I was bluntly told by editors, "You're not a good artist." I remember feeling deflated, even though I'd spent years emulating mangaka like Yude Tamago. My line work was uncertain, and my compositions felt flat until one editor showed me a deceptively simple trick. Carve out the black areas and let the white lines define the form. That single piece of advice opened my eyes to the power of negative space, and transformed the way I approached every page. For any manga-inspired fan, Araki represents persistence, experimentation, and reinvention. To him, the most important part of a well-drawn manga is authenticity. The fundamentals are cohesion in design, accurate depiction of light, and a sense of shape and place that adds realism. But the other side is signification. Realism in art aims to imitate reality like a plaster bust, and skilled drawings in this style are generally pleasing to the eye. Signification, on the other hand, involves drawing objects so they become instantly recognizable. 3 simple circles can evoke Mickey Mouse, and a single blue circle can signify Doraemon. This process creates a signifier, and popular manga artwork can be summed up as effective signification. And he has a point. For me, this is what makes drawing fun. It shows that the heart of art is designing a style that reflects your own personality. Araki even points to Akira Toriyama as the embodiment of blending realism and signification. His art feels understandable and likable even to people who don't normally care for anime. That said, there are countless mangaka whose styles are instantly recognizable at a glance. It makes you stop and wonder, what's mine? I'm light novel author GP Phils, and while diving into Araki's vision on art and manga, one thing stood out. He always talks about studying other artists to improve and avoid stagnation. And in a way, that's exactly what we're doing here. Building a library of great artists, breaking down their work, and drawing inspiration from them. Araki's career teaches us anything, it's this. Growth comes from never standing still.